consequence in the most unlikely ways. One of the consequences of the theft of the secret of silk making from China was the withdrawal of Rome and Persia from the Arabian Peninsula, only a decade before the birth in Mecca of the founder of the world's last great monotheistic religion, one whose armies would destroy the Persian Empire and conquer most of Rome's. The orbital path of an object in a two-body system, or at least one with only two gravitationally significant bodies, is a regular one, an ellipse. To know the position and speed of such an object at a specific moment in time makes it possible to determine its position at any subsequent moment. A three-body problem, call it a 3,000-body problem, is different. In a 3,000-body system like the 6th century Mediterranean, even knowing the status of a given object at two such moments, the first dominated by Rome and Persia, Plato and Christ, Athens and Jerusalem, the second by Islam and Christendom, Muhammad and Aquinas, Baghdad and Cologne, tells little of the route that the object followed to get from one to the other. Though a precise retracing of the journey is impossible, however, some approximations are better than others, else the writing of history itself would be impossible. It is not necessary to argue that any single phenomenon gave birth to the nation-states of Europe, to find merit in examining the moment of their conception. This moment, a hinge time if ever there was one, has historically been the century that occupies the last chapter in books on the classical world or the world of antiquity, or, contrariwise, the first chapter in histories of the medieval world. It is the century and the moment when the last Roman emperor who deserves to be called great embarked on the reconquest of Italy, Spain, and North Africa, put his entire weight behind the reconciliation of schism in the Christian episcopate, and drew on the aesthetic and intellectual capital of the great achievements of both the Eastern and Western Mediterranean world to build some of the world's greatest architectural and legal edifices. And it is the moment, with the emperor at the absolute zenith of his own achievement, that the world encountered the first pandemic in history. The coincidence of timing does not, of course, prove that the pandemic caused Rome to fall or Europe to be born. As above, the uncertainties of the 3,000-body problem make such a claim fundamentally unsupportable. However, the plague of Justinian, to give both pandemic and emperor their names, killed at least 25 million people, depopulated entire cities, and depressed birth rates for generations, precisely at the time that Justinian's armies had returned the entire Western Mediterranean to imperial control, and only decades before Muhammad's followers emerged out of Arabia to conquer Egypt, Palestine, Syria, Libya, Persia, Mesopotamia, and Spain. It is therefore as difficult to plot a course to modern Europe without acknowledging the presence of Justinian and the plague, as it would be to send a satellite to the moons of Saturn without accounting for the gravitational impact, the technical word is perturbation, of the planet Jupiter. Gravitational perturbation has proved a most useful tool to astronomers, most famously in 1846, when some twitchiness in the orbit of the visible planet Uranus was ascribed to the gravitational mass of the not yet visible planet Neptune. So too with human history. When two nations share a similar historical position at the same point in time, and their paths subsequently diverge, it's worth searching for some powerful, if unseen, gravitational mass. Consider the cases of Rome and China. During the 4th century of the Common Era, both great Eurasian empires were threatened with permanent dissolution. The empires founded by Augustus in 74 CE and Shi Huangdi in 221 BCE each faced invasion by peoples termed barbarians and had, as a result, suffered significant reductions in imperial size, wealth, and even legitimacy. So much so that by the 6th century, the respective rulers of each empire embarked on a planned reconquista. And each emperor succeeded, at least initially. In China, Yang Jian was successful in reasserting imperial authority over that portion of northern China that had, 2 centuries earlier, fallen to the barbarians known to historians as the 16 Kingdoms, and from his capital in Asia Minor, an unlikely place from which to rule an empire still called Roman, Justinian the Great defeated in order the Vandals, Ostrogoths.